You know it's this. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowed like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look at better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheap again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the third part of What If Deku Enters High School DXD. Special note, this fanfic is written in a masterpiece of Pleiades 1754 on fanfiction.net. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. As more days passed toward the UA entrance exam, Izuku continued his training. He usually did the general workouts with Rias, with Asia now joining him as well. And sometimes they mixed it up, such as by helping Ijiro and Mina in cleaning up the beach, with Itsuka occasionally joining them as well. On this particular day, Rias decided to help Izuku get used to flying with his wings. Even though he couldn't exactly go around showing off his devil wings, that didn't mean he wouldn't have any need for them, and so that was the purpose of the training. Rias got them permission to use one of UA's training fields and had him leap from the roof of a building there, managing to convince him after she promised to catch him if he fell. He actually managed to get the hang of flying rather quickly, almost like it was second nature to him. He then gave in to excitement as he continued to soar across the sky over the faux city, soon joined by Rias, with the two flying together for a while. However, his landing definitely needed work, as even though Rias landed back on the rooftop gracefully, Izuku ended up falling face first the moment he made touchdown. Soon, Izuku was being guided toward the nurse's office by Rias. "I definitely need to work on my landing." "Even so, that was impressive for a first real flight," Rias complimented. The two then arrived at the nurse's office. "Excuse me, is anyone here?" Izuku asked as he looked inside. "Yes, dear, and who might you be?" a sweet old female voice asked. "Oh my gosh, you're the youthful heroine, recovery girl," Izuku shouted, his fanboy side popping out. He then started to list details about recovery girl and her quirk, going into another tirade. Yes, you know your stuff well," recovery girl said. "Now, what can I do for you?" "Nothing much, just a little something for his face. He fell," Rias said. "I understand. And I hope you're on your best behavior, young lady," recovery girl said, her tone being stricter on the last part. "Yes, ma'am, I know," Rias said resignedly. After Izuku got a band-aid for his face and some gummies, the two left. Buchu, what was that about?" Izuku asked. "Well, it's about this one time I decided to take a nap in the nurse's office," Rias began. "That doesn't sound so bad," Izuku said. "Well, you know how I prefer to sleep, don't you?" Rias asked. Izuku thought about it, and when things clicked in his head, he turned bright red. Wait, you actually slept naked at school?" "Yeah, then I got caught by recovery girl, who gave me a few whacks on the head with her syringe cane thing, forced me to sit through a long lecture, and refused to heal the bump she left on my head to make the lesson sink in." Izuku prayed that he doesn't get on recovery girl's bad side when he started attending UA. It was a Sunday, and Izuku, along with Asia and Itsuka, was at Takoba Beach again, cleaning up the garbage with Ijiro and Mina. By this point, the beach was nearly cleaned up, with only a single mound of garbage to go. With one final effort from the 5 teens, the last of the trash was hauled away, leaving the beach spotless and beautiful. "We did it," Mina said as she let herself fall back on the sand. "Yeah, wow," Izuku said, amazed by their efforts. "I'm happy the beach is beautiful again," Asia said. "I'll say, you all did a good job," Rias said as she arrived. "Thanks. I'd say it was quite rewarding," Ijiro said as he wiped the sweat off his brow. "You know, I'd say it'd be a waste to have this wonderful beach and not make good use of it, don't you think?" Rias suggested. "How about a beach party? The weather's surprisingly warm today, so we might be able to swim." "Beach party? I'm game," Itsuka said. "That sounds fun. I'm in," Izuku added. "Heck yeah, I think this calls for a celebration," Mina said. "All right, I'll let the others know. Let's meet back here in about an hour and have some fun," Rias said. "Yeah," everyone cheered. Izuku and Asia were the first ones to arrive back at the beach. Izuku wore a light yellow t-shirt and dark green swim trunks, while Asia wore the Aldera school swimsuit, a modified blue one-piece. "Are we the first ones here?" Looking behind them, Asia and Izuku saw Itsuka, who had on a teal one-piece with some yellow on the sides. Yeah, looks like it," Izuku said. "Hey, we're here," Ijiro called out as he arrived with Mina. He had on a white t-shirt and dark red swim trunks, and Mina's outfit consisted of a white triangle bikini with a frill skirt bottom. "Kept you waiting?" Mina asked. "No, we just got here," Asia replied. "Hey, guys," the friendly voice of Yumi called. She was wearing a bandeau bikini that was split between white on the left side and blue on the right. "Kiba, hi," Izuku greeted. "Nice of you to make it," Ijiro said. "Where's everyone else?" Itsuka asked. "Kaniko's not really into things that involve water." As for Rias and Akino, Yumi looked around awkwardly before giving the boys a concerned look. "Just brace yourselves." "What do you mean?" Izuku asked, confused by Yumi's statement. "Sorry for being late." Izuku, Ijiro, and the girls heard the familiar voice of Rias and turned where Izuku went lava red. Heading towards them was Rias, wearing a very revealing bikini. Both pieces were hot pink with darker highlights. She also had a small bag over her right shoulder and wore sunglasses. Behind her was Akino, dragging a cooler and wearing a green micro bikini with blue highlights, which highlighted her rather mature body. Rias, upon seeing Izuku's reactions, smirked and struck a bit of a pose, and Akino did the same. "Like what you see," Rias said, causing Izuku to release steam through his whole body. "Buchu, Akino, stop," Asia yelled, placing her hands over Izuku's eyes. Rias giggled at Asia's protectiveness. "Oh, Asia, we were just teasing. Izuku's reaction is so cute that I can't help myself." "I can't believe this is that same garbage-filled beach," Akino said, looking over the clean beach. Yumi looked impressed too. "I'll say." "Okay, guys, we have a great beach, so let's not waste any more time and have fun," Rias declared. "Yeah." And so, the majority of the day was spent playing at the beach. The water was too cold to swim for long, but they still found plenty of other things to do. That night, Rias decided to follow Izuku and Asia home, wanting to come over for dinner. She gave Inko a call for her permission, and Inko was more than happy to have her over. Once the three devils got home, they started helping Inko, who was already preparing what seemed to be a delectable feast, considering the wonderful aroma coming from the stove. "My, that smells delicious," Rias said as she inhaled the fragrance. "I'm glad I decided to stop by." "Why, thank you. I especially went all out today to make it extra divine," Inko said. Then, Izuku went to the counter to get the plates, grabbing 4. "Actually, Izuku, get one more. Rias isn't the only other company we'll be having today," Inko informed. "Really? Who?" Izuku asked as he took out a 5th plate. Inko's face lit up in excitement. "Oh, just wait. And I'm particularly excited for Asia and Rias to meet him too." Said girls' faces turned at Inko's statement, and they couldn't help but wonder who their mystery guest was. Knock, knock, knock. "Ah, he's here," Inko's face lit up before grinning at her son. "Izuku, would you be a dear and get the door?" "Sure, I'm on it." Izuku went over to the door while his mother had a cheery smile plastered to her face, looking over at Rias and Asia. "Knock, knock, knock." "I'm coming," Izuku called before he threw the door open. Outside the door, there was a tall and slender man with a lean face, his chin covered in stubble, and his cheeks lined with freckles, while a mop of messy dark hair lay atop his head. He wore a maroon button-down shirt with rolled-up sleeves, dark pants, and worn leather shoes. Izuku quickly recognized the man. "Hey, champ, how's it going?" "Dad, I didn't expect you to visit again so soon." "Dad?" Asia and Rias shouted as they saw the newcomer. They had heard from Izuku how his father worked as part of JSDF overseas, and that he often came back for the holidays. "Believe me, I wasn't either," Izuku's father joked. "Hisashi," Inko came out from the kitchen to greet her husband. The two spouses then embraced each other in a warm hug as they kissed. "Inko, my dear, I take it you've been well," Hisashi said with a smile. Then he noticed Rias and Asia. And you two must be the lovely young ladies who are part of our son's life now, right? Asia Argento. I hope you don't mind that I'm currently living here with your family. Rias Gremory. It's a pleasure to meet you, sir. Soon, everyone went back into the kitchen for dinner, with Inko and Hisashi on one side, and Izuku, Asia, and Rias on the other. I missed you. I missed you too, my sweet spark. Izuku felt really awkward as he watched his parents act all lovey-dovey from across the dinner table. They did this every time his dad came home, but he could never get used to it. The girls also watched the scene unfold and couldn't help but chuckle inwardly. So, Izuku. Izuku then heard his father call out to him. I heard you finally awakened your quirk after so long. Quite late even for late bloomers, but better late than never, as they say. Yeah, I was surprised when I learned that I wasn't powerless after all, but Rias has been a good coach in helping me train and learn more about it, Izuku replied. So, what can you do with your new power? Care to tell your old man? Izuku proceeded to explain his quirk, how he could double his strength every 10 seconds until it resets when he hits his limit, leaving out any supernatural bits. Wow, looks like that power picked the right time to bloom. With something as awesome as that, you'll no doubt be an equally awesome hero, Hisashi said, showing his faith in Izuku's dream. Wow. Thanks, Dad, Izuku said, happy. Asia and Rias smiled at this. So Hisashi, what brings you back here so quickly? Inko asked. Yes, about that, I'm actually on business, Hisashi said, his tone suddenly becoming professional. You see, there's a criminal who escaped to Japan, and I'm here to track him down. Really? Who? Inko asked. A leader of a 3-person group. They're not well-known villains, but still dangerous nonetheless, as one of our guards can attest. Poor guy, Hisashi explained. Sounds scary. You're going to be okay, right, Hisashi? Inko asked. Inko, please. They don't let just anyone into the JSDF, Hisashi reassured her. With that, everyone got on enjoying the nice dinner before them. The next night, Rias received a report for yet another stray devil in her territory, so she had her peerage mobilize for another stray hunt. It was said to have been last spotted at an old building. Okay, everyone. We're going in. Are you ready? Rias asked. Yeah, her peerage responded. Kaneko pounded the door in, and the whole peerage entered. However, what they saw was not what they had expected. There was the burnt carcass of a beastly creature, which was presumably the stray devil they had been assigned to exterminate. Next to the charred corpse was a figure dressed in green dragon-like armor, with a helmet that obscured his face. In his hand was a katana-like sword, its blade blazing in green flames. I apologize, children, but as you can see, I got here first. The figure spoke in a distorted voice that masked his real one. And I see you're with the House of Gremory, a big name in the devil community. The young devils raised their guard in case this man planned on targeting them next. Who is he? Some sort of exorcist? Izuku asked. I don't think so. I don't feel any holy vibes coming from him, Yumi said, her sword drawn. Who are you? What do you want? Rias asked. Not what, who I want, the man said, pointing toward Izuku. Me? Izuku pointed at himself. If you want my servant, you'll have to go through me first, Rias declared as her hands lit up with magic. The rest of the group also prepared themselves for a fight. Is that so? The draconic warrior asked. The tension started to build as the masked man and the devils stared each other down. Ahahahaha. The warrior started laughing, the tension suddenly dropping. His laugh was not an evil maniacal one, but rather more like that of a prankster laughing at his own joke. Okay. I think that's enough of the whole brooding mysterious warrior bit. He put his sword away, and his helmet faded away to reveal the face of none other than Hisashi Midoriya. Dad, it's you, Izuku shouted. Rias and Asia were also shocked that the masked man before them was none other than Izuku's father. Dad, Akino, Yumi, and Kaneko asked. They weren't present that day, but they did hear about his father returning on business. Yep, it's me, champ, Hisashi replied. Izuku finally snapped out of his shock. I have so many questions. Sure, let him rip. Almost immediately, Izuku began muttering away at full speed. How? Why? I don't get it. You're involved with the supernatural. Why didn't you say anything before? Wait, does mom know? Hold on, do you know about my power? Hang on, I thought you worked for the self-defense force. What's this all about? Rias frowned. Izuku, there's no way he got all that. Yes, I do work with the supernatural, Hisashi replied calmly and without a hint of hesitation. Rias gasped. You understood him? Hisashi then continued. And I couldn't tell you due to the policies in place. Gotta keep the supernatural a secret and all that, though that's out the window by this point. No, your mother isn't aware of all this, which I think you'll agree is for the best. Her little heart may not be able to take it. He gestured to Izuku's left arm. And yes, I know about you and your boosted gear. Izuku's friends all internally gasped. He really is Izuku's dad. Not only did he understand everything Izuku said, but he also answered just as freakily. As for the self-defense force, that was really more of a cover-up for my true affiliation. You see, I'm from the Mystic Keepers, a group of supernatural peacekeepers. I've heard about them. They're known for having resolved many supernatural incidents over the years, Rias said. And you're one of them, Mr. Hisashi. That I am, Hisashi replied. Then he turned to Izuku. And to be honest, I never expected to see that you've been reincarnated as a devil, son. Izuku realized that his father knew about him being a devil now. Yes, I'm a devil, but Dad, listen, Izuku tried to explain. Don't worry. Unlike some people, I don't think that becoming a devil is such a black and white matter. If you had a good reason for it, then I understand that, Hisashi said. Oh, Izuku said in relief. Wait, if you're part of some supernatural organization, does that mean? Yes. It's not your average quirked criminal. It's someone from the supernatural side, Hisashi replied. Rias, can you gather all the other devils in this city? I figure it would be a good idea to let them know about the situation as well. Yes, I understand, Rias replied. It might be short notice, but I'll try to get them together tomorrow after school. Good, Hisashi said. In the meantime, you kids should get home. The stray has been dealt with, after all. See you at home, son. I'll head back after a bit more patrolling. Feel free to ask more questions back home. Sure, Dad, Izuku responded. Then he and the rest of Rias's peerage teleported away. The next day, Izuku and Asia headed to the clubroom after school like normal. Usually, it was to either train or do jobs, but today was slightly different. After yesterday's meeting with Hisashi, Rias was getting all the devils together. Izuku was still surprised that his dad was a fighter of the supernatural. Speaking of his dad, Hisashi was currently being served tea by Akino. Across from them were Yumi, Kaneko, Izuku, and Asia, while Rias sat at the desk. Night had fallen, and Izuku expected the Citri group to arrive shortly. Soon, there was a knock on the door, followed by, "We're here." It was a voice unfamiliar to Izuku. Then, a girl about a year older than him entered the room. She wore the standard UA uniform with silver diamond earrings, white thigh-high socks, and black loafers. She had almond eyes with long blonde hair that ended in blue tips. Her body was rather voluptuous with proportions similar to Ria's, especially her large breasts. Her nails were painted blue, and she also held an elegant folding fan. She was then followed by a group consisting almost entirely of girls. Leisha, so good of you to come on such short notice, Rias greeted. No problem. Did we make it here before Sona? Leisha asked. Wait, Buchu, are they devils too? Hang on, are there more devils at UA? Izuku asked. Yes, we are. However, Rias, Sona, and I are the only high-class devils at UA, Leisha answered. I'm Leisha Astaroth, first-year General Studies student and president of the Calligraphy Club, pleased to make your acquaintance. Oh, hello, Izuku greeted. I see you've upped your numbers. It's been a while, Leisha said, referring to Izuku and Asia. Izukumidoriya, my pawn of 8 pieces. Asia Argento, my new bishop, Rias introduced. Nice to meet you. Actually, I believe you're already acquainted with someone from my peerage. As she said this, another step forward. Izuku quickly stood up in surprise, already recognizing her. Akaninjin, Izuku blinked. It was Chacha Akaninjin, his classmate from Aldra. Hi, the rabbit-like blonde smiled back at him. Small world, huh? Yeah, guess so, Izuku replied. So, what's the reason for having us? Leisha asked. Then she noticed Hisashi. Who's that? Actually, he resembles Midoriya. I'll explain more once Sona and her team arrive. Meanwhile, why not introduce your team to my new members, Rias suggested. Sure thing. Leisha then turned to the rest of her peerage. Okay, go ahead everyone, introduce yourselves. Chacha was the first to step forward. Hi, Chacha Akaninjan, Lady Leisha's queen. Thanks for having us, she said cheerfully. The sole male of Leisha's peerage then stepped forward. Yo, I'm Kongo Hisui, Miss Leisha's knight, if you want to be formal. But that's a mouthful. Just call me Kongo. His hair was blue and blonde with few streaks of green, he had brown eyes, and he had athletic tape wrapped around his right arm and left hand. He was dressed in a UA uniform and wore black shoes. Then he pointed to one of the girls. Hey, sis, why don't you go next? The girl complied and stepped up. I'm Shinju Hisui, Miss Leisha's other knight. Caution and foresight are my watchwords. She had short blonde hair and blue eyes with a slim figure, and she wore the UA uniform. She had on a red headband, blue bracelets on her wrists, and red shoes. The next to introduce herself was a girl with blonde hair tied into twintails that turned aqua green halfway down and then blue at the tips. Her eyes were heterochromatic, left eye blue and right eye orange. Her bust size was also pretty impressive, and a pair of red horns sprouted from the top of her head. The name's Oriheim Yamasaki, Lady Leisha's rook. A pleasure. Sup, name's Katsuragi Keiskiri, the boss lady's other rook. The next girl to introduce herself had long blonde hair with a blue headband that had a ribbon on both sides of her head and green eyes. She also had big breasts, almost on par with her master's. Then the next girl proceeded to introduce herself. Hello, I'm Hermione Greena, Lady Leisha's bishop. She spoke in an English accent. Hermione had shoulder-length bushy brown hair and matching eyes. She wore a white dress shirt with a red and yellow striped tie and a gray skirt. Rihanna Kimono. Master Leisha's pawn of 2 pieces. How do you do? The next girl who spoke had black hair in a neck-length bob cut with a red headband that had a bloom knot and yellow eyes. She also wore a red choker with spider web patterns. My name is Nymphi Jin, Lady Leisha's pawn, also worth 2. The next girl had white skin except for her hands, which were pink, matching long hair and long ears, and light blue eyes. She also had ribbon-like feelers around her shoulders and a pink mammalian tail. Hello, everyone. I'm Elena Vanadine, a pawn worth 2 pieces as well. I hope we get along. The last girl in the group, who was also the tallest among them, introduced herself quietly. She had dark skin, long white hair that faded to bluish-gray near the bottom, long and pointy ears, and light blue eyes. She was rather busty as well. Then, just as Leisha's peerage finished introducing themselves, another knock came on the door and the Citri peerage entered. Even though it was a large room, having 3 devil peerages inside made it into a full house. But luckily, there were enough extra chairs so everyone could sit. Once everyone got settled, Rias spoke up. Thanks for arriving on such short notice, everyone. I know it might have been inconvenient, but it was at our guest's request. She gestured toward Hisashi. This is Hisashi Midoriya, father of my pawn, Izuku, and a member of the Mystic Keepers. The majority of the Citri and Asteroth groups were surprised at hearing the last part, but some were confused. Okay, can anyone explain who the Mystic Keepers are? Saji asked. We're a group of warriors who act as peacekeepers in the supernatural realm. Some of us even operate as heroes in the mundane world, Hisashi explained. Whoa, that sounds like a big deal, Saji said. I've heard their roster includes many gifted magicians, quirk users, sacred gear wielders, supernatural beings, etc. Do you perhaps have any business with us devils, sir? Leisha asked. Let me start from the beginning. I'm here to track down a fugitive who escaped from one of our strongholds. His name is Vector Bellios, a rather unscrupulous individual with a lot under his name. Hisashi replied, showing the image of Vector, a thuggish-looking bald man with tattoos and brawny arms. I believe his escape was assisted by his crew known as the Bellios Gang. There are 3 sibling team including Vector. The other 2 are Veronica and Vince Bellios. Hisashi then revealed images of a woman with red hair in a bob cut and a blonde man with a mohawk. They've brought harm to many supernatural beings in the past, and I'm sure devils are no exception. From a contact here in Japan, I got sort of a lead that some black market deals will be happening in this city tomorrow night. Guess who might be among the customers? The Bellos gang, Sona guessed. Exactly. However, it's split between at most 8 different sites, meaning I won't be able to check them all in time, Hisashi explained. And that's why you want our help, Rias concluded. The 3 kings turned to each other in discussion, and the Bellos gang's potential threat quickly influenced their decision. This city is under my watch, so if those guys want to come here to do something bad, then they'll have to answer to me. Plus, you're my servant's father, so I can think of this as doing a favor for him. My group and I will lend you our support, Sona said. Us too, Leisha added. Great. Now that everyone's on board, let's get planning, Hisashi said. And so, the 3 peerages and Hisashi started planning how to split the group to cover all sites and find the Bellos gang. The night of the stakeout arrived, and the 3 peerages were split into teams to stake out the locations. Izuku was grouped together with Asia, Chacha, and Momo. They were currently stationed at a loading dock in a harbor, waiting from the top of some stacked trailers. As Izuku waited, he couldn't help but think back to when his father explained a bit about his supernatural background. Flashback. Hisashi had returned back from patrolling, and Izuku and Asia were there to greet him. Luckily, Inko was already asleep, so they could talk with Hisashi more freely. How did you become a member of the Mystic Keepers? Actually, before that, how did you become aware of the supernatural? Izuku asked. Well, to be honest, supernatural background has always been a part of the Midoriya family, going back 4 generations from you, Hisashi explained. As for the Mystic Keepers, a friend of my father who was a member brought me in after some consideration if I was worthy. Is your dragon armor a sacred gear? Asia asked. Ah, the dragon veil armor. No, that's just something I received sometime during my career in the Keepers, Hisashi replied. And the sword, that was actually the first item I got upon joining. The Sword of Flames, Homurasaki. Hisashi then unsheathed the Homurasaki for Izuku and Asia to see. It was a sleek, katana-like sword with the image of a dragon etched onto the blade. So cool, Izuku said as he marveled at the blade. I could show you more about it, but we don't want to set off the fire alarms now, do we? Hisashi joked as he sheathed the Homurasaki. End flashback. At another stakeout spot, there were Yumi, Tsubaki, Katsuragi, Kaneko, and Hisashi. Nothing so far, Yumi said. Man, this is boring, Katsuragi complained. Then she noticed Yumi, specifically her breasts, and a mischievous grin appeared on her face. I just found a good way to pass the time. Then, without warning, she started groping Yumi to her shock. Oh wow, just look at these sweater puppies. I bet these combined with that pretty face draw all the boys right towards ya, don't they? Hey, come on, stop, Yumi begged through the moans from having her breasts groped. Tsubaki noticed this and got a weird look on her face. Kaneko, however, made an obvious frown. Sexual harassment is not allowed, hentai senpai, Kaneko said. Aw, why you gotta be such a killjoy, Katsuragi said as she let go of Yumi. I know, maybe yours can grow a bit bigger too with a little massage. No thank you, Kaneko firmly declined. Meanwhile, Hisashi turned away from the girls, knowing it was best to stay uninvolved in their antics. Teenagers. How much longer do you think until someone shows up? Chacha asked. Hopefully not that much longer, Izuku said. I feel so nervous. Hopefully, it won't be like back then with Rainier, Asia said. Think of it as fighting villains. It could be like a warm-up for when we'll have to fight actual villains, Momo advised. Yeah, you're right, Izuku said. Then he backtracked. Fight actual villains? Wait, does that mean you're applying for the hero course too, Hanakai? I am, actually. As a matter of fact, But before she could finish, something happened that caught everyone's attention. On the ground below, a cloaked figure teleported in from a magic circle, and then another figure arrived by teleporting, who was bigger than the first. The second figure then removed his hood to show his face. It was the face of Vector Bellos. There's our mark, Chacha whispered. Vector dug his hand into his pocket before turning to the other figure. I'm surprised you're already back to your old tricks, since it hasn't been long since you escaped prison, the figure said. If it were me, I'd lay low for about 2 months. Well, I'm not you. Gotta get back in the game ASAP, Vector said. Now show me the goods. The broker then showed a few items in a briefcase. These babies can change into magic weapons at the drop of a hat. Try them out and tell me which one you like. Looks like it's getting underway, Chacha said. We better contact our kings, Momo said, and she put a magic circle to her ear to try and call Sona, but she was unable to establish a connection. Something's wrong. I can't call Kaichu. Me neither with Lady Leisha, Chacha added. Buchu won't respond, Asia said. Back on the ground, Vector noticed the young devils above him, though he didn't make it obvious. Well, looks like we have some spies. Seriously? Well, I ain't sticking around to get caught. Next time. The seller then teleported away, leaving Vector by himself, annoyed. Pesky kids. I'll teach them for sticking their noses where they don't belong. Vector suddenly turned around and fired a magic blast at the devils, causing them to fall from their watchpoint. Fortunately, they managed to spread their wings to slow their descent and land safely. Well, I never expected to be visited by devils tonight, much less a bunch of kids, Vector said. It's no use trying to call for backup. I secretly cast a communication blocking spell. So that's what happened, Chacha realized. Might be better to run, little devils. You can't take me on by yourselves, and your communication spells are useless, Vector said. That may be, but there's more than one way to call for help, Momo declared. And then, she created a flare gun in her hand. She then fired straight up, sending out a signal flare. Momo Hanakai. Her quirk, creation. She can create any non-living object she wants. But she's only able to do this if she understands the molecular structure of the item she's making. Whoa, that's awesome, Izuku said as he looked up at the bright flare in the sky. Vector let out an annoyed growl at the girl's insolence. Back with Hisashi's group, they noticed the signal. Isn't that from Izuku's group? Yumi wondered. But why a signal flare? Katsuragi asked. Maybe they were trying to call for help, but normal communication spells didn't work, so they improvised, Hisashi rationalized. You should go check, Mr. Midoriya, Kaneko said. He's your son, after all. Besides, we can handle ourselves, Yumi said. Well, I guess I can't argue with that. Good luck, girls, Hisashi said. Then after equipping himself with his armor, wings sprouted from his back, allowing him to fly towards Izuku's location. Not long after Hisashi left, the girls received company. It was Vincent Bellos, and then to greet him was a black market dealer. Finally, took them long enough, Katsuragi said, eager for a fight. Let's go, Sacred Gear, Dragon Rebellion. Then, a pair of black metal boots with a gold trim appeared on her feet. The others then followed her lead. Yumi created a sword, Kaneko cracked her knuckles, and Tsubaki drew a naginata. Then, the devil girls all went down to confront the bad guy, taking him by surprise. Meanwhile, at a third spot, there were Rias, Sona, and Leisha, and then they were joined by Akino, Saji, and Oraheim. Our location just turned up some normal crooks, so there was nothing else for us to do there, Saji informed. Though we did tip off the police before coming here, Oraheim added. Then, everyone noticed Momo's signal flare. That came from Chacha's location, Leisha noted. Are they calling for help? Why didn't they just call us normally? Akino wondered. Something must have made it so they can't do that, Sona deduced. Izuku, Asia, Rias shouted in worry for her servants. If you're that worried, then you should go to them, Leisha suggested. We can watch out for ourselves, but our juniors might need some help, Akino added. All right, if you say so, Rias said before teleporting away. And right as Rias teleported away, Veronica Bellios arrived on the scene, with the remaining devils ready to fight her. Back with Izuku's group, they were doing all they could against Vector. Izuku already summoned his boosted gear and began boosting his power. Boost. Dragon Shot. Izuku fired a green energy shot at Vector, who dodged it. Vector enhanced his fist with magic and tried to punch Izuku, but Asia managed to snare her vines around Vector's arms to hold him back. However, Vector shrugged it off and used his other arm to grab the vines and pull at Asia, forcing her to detach the vines. Cardinal Heroes, Beauty Serene Arrow. Chacha summoned a bow and arrow in her hands and drew the bow back to fire the arrow. Momo followed up with a fireball, and the girls both shot their attacks at Vector. Vector formed a defensive spell in front of himself that managed to block both attacks. But then, Izuku came charging in from his side. Vector noticed and tried to hit Izuku before he could reach him, but Asia wrapped her vines around Vector's arm again to distract him. Dragon Smash, with his power doubled, Izuku threw an energy-enhanced punch at Vector's side, sending him crashing into a crate. "Is he down?" Asia asked. Her question was soon answered as negative when Vector got back on his feet. "Not bad for a bunch of kids. I can tell you've been trained well. I suppose it's time for me to bring out my quirk." Then, Vector's body underwent a drastic change as green reptilian scales started forming over his skin. His eyes turned solid yellow, his jaws extended with his teeth becoming fangs, his hands and feet became clawed, a crocodilian tail sprouted from his back. Now bearing the appearance of an anthropomorphic crocodile thanks to his quirk, Vector let out a loud roar. "Things are not looking good," Momo said, and that was an understatement. "Now then, shall we continue?" Vector said in a guttural voice. But then, Rias arrived through a teleportation circle. "Pardon the intrusion, but I'm here to lend my juniors a helping hand," Rias said. "Another girl? Fine by me. Let's have some fun together." Katsuragi spun on one leg to generate a mini vortex around herself. Then she kicked to send a blast of wind at Vincent. He crossed his arms to block it, and he was pushed back a bit. Katsuragi Keiskiri. Her sacred gear, Dragon Rebellion. A dragon-type sacred gear. It allows her to harness the power of wind to add power and speed to her kicks. Kaneko then followed up with a hard left slug, making the man take a few steps back. Then, Vincent was quick to retaliate with his own punch, sending Kaneko flying back. Tsubaki and Yumi both held their bladed weapons out and charged at Vincent, who took out a pair of tonfas that he enhanced with magic, using them to block the attacks. "He's pretty good," Yumi noted. "Yes, even so, we must fight on," Tsubaki said. "Not bad for teenage girls," Vincent said, "but this isn't even my best, I assure you." Then, Vincent activated his quirk, and a turtle shell appeared over his body. "Now that my defense has been increased, let's try that again." Meanwhile, Akino, Sona, Saji, Leisha, and Oraheim were currently facing off against Veronica, who had taken on a serpentine appearance via her quirk. White scales over her skin, forked tongue, and her legs were merged into a snake tail. Oraheim swung a studded kanabo at Veronica, who was able to dodge it thanks to her enhanced agility. Veronica then fired a magic blast at Oraheim, who reinforced her kanabo with magic to bat the attack away. Akino fired a lightning bolt at Veronica, who put up a magic shield to try and block it. But Akino's attack was too strong, breaking through her defense and electrocuting her. Absorption line. Saji manifested a black chameleon-like bracer with a deformed face on his wrist, and it shot a blue tongue at Veronica, latching onto her, and she felt the energy getting drained out of her. "Neat trick. Now let me show you mine." Then, Veronica started shedding her skin, with the absorption line staying connected to the discarded husk rather than Veronica's main body. "What? No way!" Saji shouted in surprise as he reeled the line back. "Keep your cool, Saji. This fight's not over," Sona advised her pawn as she fired volleys of water orbs at Veronica. Plant manipulation. Leisha cast a spell, causing green magic circles to appear around Veronica as multiple brown vines shot out of them and wrapped around her. But she was able to slip out of her ensnarement thanks to her snake-like form. Back with Rias and the others, they continued their fight against Vector. Asia's vines sprouted from under Vector's feet and started binding him, then Momo froze him in place by summoning a gust of blizzard. However, Vector managed to break free rather thanks to his crocodile strength. Phoenix Sword. Chacha summoned a sword and with a slashing motion, sent a bird-shaped red energy flash at Vector. She was then followed by Rias firing dark energy bolts at Vector, who was pushed back. Vector swiftly spun around to try and whip Rias with his tail, but she managed to dodge by taking to the air. Promotion, Rook. Izuku charged right at Vector and landed a strength-enhanced right hook on his face. However, Vector wasn't finished as he grabbed onto Izuku's right arm and slammed him into the ground. "Izukumidoriya," the girls all shouted. "Let's try that again." But right before Vector could try to slam Izuku into the ground again, he was suddenly hit in the face by a green fireball, causing him to release Izuku as he scrambled in pain. Asia took the chance to grab Izuku with her vines and bring him over to her. "Not so fast, Killer Croc!" the voice of Hisashi shouted as the man arrived on the scene, with the homurasaki in his hand. "Mr. Midoriya," Momo called out. "Hey, kids, I didn't arrive too late, did I?" Hisashi asked. "No, I'd say your timing was just right," Izuku said as he was getting healed by Asia. Then, Vector managed to get the fire put out to see the new arrival, and recognized him from the armor. "It's you, one of the Mystic Keeper's top agents, the one they call Cinder." "That's right. And you, not my friend, it's time for you to go back to prison," Hisashi said. "You and your army of children. If you had your fellow keepers by your side, I might be worried, but all you've got are some meddling kids," Vector laughed. "I wouldn't be so quick to dismiss them. After all, some of them will be future heroes," Hisashi retorted. "Ridiculous." Vector then roared and charged at Hisashi, baring his fangs. Hisashi used homurasaki to block Vector's teeth, and no matter how hard the crocodile man bit down, he could not snap the homurasaki to pieces, so he relented and backed off. "Kids, let's take him down," Hisashi rallied, and the teen devils all nodded. Meanwhile, Vincent stood tall and proud in his turtle form as Yumi, Tsubaki, Kaneko, and Katsuragi came from all directions, hitting him with a barrage of sword slashes, naginata thrusts, punches, and kicks. However, Vincent used his shell to its full advantage, relying on defense as well as occasionally retracting into it. "It's no use. You can come at me from any direction, but my shell is tough like a turtle, with a little extra," Vincent boasted. Then, he started firing magic bolts at the girls, who either dodged or deflected the blasts. "Damn, we keep hitting this guy with everything, but he's tanking them like nothing," Katsuragi noted. "Even with all of us attacking at the same time, it's not working," Tsubaki added. "If there was a weak spot, this would be a lot easier," Kaneko commented. Hearing this, Yumi had an idea. "That's it. If there's no weak spot, then we'll just make one ourselves," Yumi declared. "Rather than attacking him from all directions, we should try focusing on one spot." "I see. That's an excellent idea," Tsubaki said, holding up her naginata. "What are you girls talking about over there? It's useless. You'll never get past my defenses," Vincent called out. "Let's test that theory, shall we?" Yumi challenged as she held a sword in each hand. She and Tsubaki charged forward. Vincent fired lightning blasts from his hands, but the girls dodged them as they got closer. First, Yumi slashed her swords in an X formation on Vincent's chest. Then, Tsubaki thrust repeatedly at the center of the spot Yumi had slashed. The repeated thrusts at the same area actually managed to push Vincent back a few steps. "I'm impressed you managed to move me, but my shell is still impenetrable." "There's more where that came from," Katsuragi said as she got on her hands and started spinning, forming a small whirlwind around herself. Once she had spun enough, the wind was absorbed into Dragon Rebellion, and she charged straight at Vincent, landing a few kicks where Yumi and Tsubaki had struck. Kaneko was the last to step up as she blocked or dodged the magic-enhanced punches by Vincent before repeatedly pummeling the spot on Vincent's torso. Eventually, Kaneko ceased her attack and stepped back, but Vincent's shell was seemingly undamaged. "Ha ha ha, what did I tell ya? You can't break my shell," Vincent bragged, but then, a small crack appeared on his plastron, right at the spot that the girls singled out. "What? Impossible?" "It worked, let's end it," Yumi said. The girls once again hit the same spot, and then Kaneko, with everything she had, delivered the final blow, breaking through the shell. Vincent collapsed on his knees and fell on his back as he was knocked out cold, his quirk deactivating. "He's down. Now we better make sure he can't escape." Tsubaki cast a spell to bind Vincent with magic circles. "I must say, it was an honor to work with you, Shinra," Yumi said. "Oh, thank you. I enjoyed teaming up as well," Tsubaki said, her eyes not actually focused on Yumi. "What's this? Some girl-to-girl bonding time? Mind if I join in?" Katsuragi entered the conversation as she groped Tsubaki from behind, causing her to let out a yelp. "Ooh, wow. These jugs are amazing too." "Enough! Stop!" Tsubaki demanded as she tried to get Katsuragi off her. Yumi let out an awkward chuckle, having been a victim as well. Back with Sona, Leisha, Saji, Oraheim, and Akino, They were still dealing with the slippery snake that was Veronica. "Well, she's quite the slick one," Akino commented. "That snake form of hers is troublesome. She managed to slip out of the grasp of my demonic plants," Leisha added. "Not to mention my absorption line. When I attach it to a target, it shouldn't be able to be removed so easily. But all she had to do was shed her skin, and the line stayed with the husk," Saji added. "Don't get distracted. Devils!" Veronica suddenly came slithering and lunged her head forward with her mouth wide open ready to bite. But the devils all managed to dodge. Veronica didn't let that stop her and charged again. But this time Orihime got her kanebo ready and swung at Veronica, sending the snake woman flying back. "That's it. I'm getting serious," Orihime said, and her body started changing. White fur grew from her body, her ears became wolf-like, her hands became clawed, and she gained a wolf tail. A breeze of cold air formed as Orihime breathed. Orihime Yamasaki. Her quirk, Okuchi no Makami. She can take on the form of an Okuchi no Makami, the guardian wolf deity. Not only does she gain wolf-like traits, but also some power over ice. Orihime then took a deep breath and breathed out a blast of cold air at Veronica, which she barely managed to dodge, and again when Orihime released another ice breath. "I think I have an idea to slow her down," Sona spoke up. "Saji, use your sacred gear again. You don't need to hold her, just keep her stalled." "Yeah, okay," Saji responded. "Leisha, can you help him with your plants?" Sona requested. "Of course," Leisha answered. "Akino, please wait on standby." "You got it." Then, as Veronica slithered back to make space between herself and the devils, Leisha's plants once again emerged from the ground to ensnare her, followed by Saji's absorption line. "This again?" Veronica asked as she began maneuvering her way out of the vines and shed her skin to shake off Saji's line. But as soon as she got free, the two repeated their attacks. "Let's see how you like some sticky nectar," Leisha said, and her vines sprouted flowers that sprayed nectar all over Veronica. "Ugh, what is this gooey stuff?" Veronica said as she was covered all over in the sticky fluid, preventing her from slipping out of the vines. She then tried shedding her skin, but there was too much nectar, still leaving her in the literal sticky situation. "Now then, water prison," Sona trapped Veronica in a sphere of water, and when Veronica tried to swim out, the bubble prevented her from doing so. "Oh good, now it's my turn, let's hear you scream." Akino summoned a bolt of lightning that struck the aquatic confinement, also hitting Veronica inside, who screamed in pain, to Akino's enjoyment. When Akino's attack ceased, Veronica was left charred as she collapsed, returning to her normal form as her quirk stopped working when she fell unconscious. Orihime then used her quirk to form ice restraints around Veronica's body, securing the villainess. "There, we're done here," Orihime said. Then, a magic circle appeared in Sona's ear and she listened. "I just got word from Tsubaki. They've captured their target as well. So that only leaves the boss. Hope the others are doing fine," Leisha said. Rias fired a magic blast at Vector which he tried to block with his own, but Rias's turned out to be stronger, hitting its mark. Vector then fired magic bolts at Hisashi, who used Homurasaki to deflect the shots. When that failed, Vector lunged at Hisashi, but then he was caught in a net fired by a net gun held by Momo. The net only served to annoy Vector as he quickly tore through the net with his teeth and claws. However, the net was merely a distraction to give Hisashi a moment to strike. Hisashi used his sword to send a wave of flames at Vector, dealing damage. Vector then charged at Cha-Cha to try and pummel her. "Bird shield!" Cha-Cha summoned a small shield on her wrist, and it projected a force field that blocked Vector's hits. Then, Izuku was all healed up and charged right at Vector, gearing his fist back, before hitting Vector in the abdomen. "Had enough?" Izuku asked. "Never." Vector panted and glared at Izuku. Then he turned his gaze toward Asia and remembered her healing Izuku. Vector decided to take out the opposing healer and fired a magic shot right at Asia. "Asia!" Izuku shouted as he got right in front of Asia to block the shot. "Izuku!" Asia shouted as Izuku took the shot for her. Luckily, he wasn't hurt too bad. Izuku turned at Vector with a glare full of righteous fury. "I won't let you hurt her." "Really? I'd like to see you try, boy," Vector mocked. Izuku kept his glare up as he stood firm, his resolve not faltering. Haha. I can feel that determination of yours. Let a dormant aspect of yourself awaken. Huh? Who said that? Izuku wondered. He couldn't help but think it sounded a lot like All Might, only gruffer. And then, the boosted gear started flashing green, and something started to happen to Izuku's body. Boosted dragon. Red scales started to envelop Izuku's right arm and the sides of his face, while from his back, a pair of red dragon wings emerged rather than his devil wings. While the girls were surprised by Izuku's sudden dragon-like look, Hisashi seemed intrigued by his son's transformation. Whoa, what happened to me? Izuku was surprised by the changes to his body, but he set it aside before flying straight at Vector, landing a stomach punch on the crocodilian crook, causing him to let out a pained cough. Impossible, Vector grunted. All right, I think he's almost done. One more time. Kids, Hisashi said. Right. Meteor spear, Chacha summoned a spear in her hands. Rias fired another dark energy blast. Momo shot out a lightning bolt. Chacha thrust her spear multiple times to send out energy projectiles, and Hisashi swung Homurasaki to send out another flaming slash. Then, Izuku focused all the power he had built up as he rushed at Vector. Dragon Smash! Izuku landed a powerful punch right in Vector's face. Explosion! The force of the punch sent Vector flying backward, right into a crate with enough force to leave a dent. Then, Vector collapsed to the ground, knocked out, and his quirk deactivated. We did it, Chacha celebrated. Not long after, Vector was restrained, and Hisashi soon called for other members of the Mystic Keepers to take Vector and his siblings into custody. I'm proud of what you did here, champ. Especially that dragon mode of yours. Hisashi praised. Oh, well, the thing is that's the first time that's happened. Actually, I wonder how that even happened. I mean, I heard the boosted gear shout boosted dragon, and it is supposed to be a dragon-type sacred gear, though I never knew it could actually give me dragon-like traits. I wonder if I unlocked something new, Izuku started to mumble. Okay, you might want to stop before you overload your brain, Hisashi said with a chuckle. Oh, right, Izuku said as he stopped. Anyway, I have to go now. I wish I could help you learn more about that new dragon mode, but I can't. Until next time, champ, Hisashi said before joining his fellow keepers, then they all teleported away. Later, all three devil peerages regrouped back in the orc room. Izuku was resting after the night he had when he noticed Chacha approaching him. Hey, she greeted with an awkward smile while rubbing the back of her head. So, you want to hang out sometime, Midoriya? I mean, we've got nothing to hide since we're both devils. Yeah. Sure, Izuku nodded. Hey, those weapons you used, are they part of a sacred gear? Yeah, Cardinal Heroes, Chacha answered. I've got access to 4 different weapons, Beauty Serene Arrow, Phoenix Sword, Bird Shield, and Meteor Spear, though yours is way more impressive. And you going dragon was amazing too. Yeah, but don't sell yourself out short. If you can use 4 different weapons, then it means you've got a lot in your arsenal. That's something mine can't do, Izuku pointed out. Thanks. Also, mind if I call you Izuku? We've been friends for some time, and if you want, you can call me Chacha. Sure, I don't mind. I mean, Chacha, Izuku said, to Chacha's delight. Asia sent a jealous look in their direction, and she wasn't the only one. Huh? Rias blinked, looking over at Chacha. Hey, Leisha. What's up with your queen? Who? Chacha, Leisha asked. She's been crushing on Midoriya for a while now. Then she noticed Rias with a raised eyebrow. Don't tell me you're jealous of my queen, Rias. Wah? As if, Rias countered, but the flustered look on her face told a different story. Whatever you say, Leisha smirked, to Rias's annoyance. The next day, after all the club activities were completed, Izuku and Asia headed home. However, when they got there, they were hit with a big surprise. Hey there, champ, Asia, Hisashi greeted. Dad, I thought you were heading back, Izuku said. Believe me, I was surprised too, Hisashi said. Isn't it wonderful, kids? Inko asked as she stepped out of the kitchen. Hisashi's been reassigned to here in Japan. That's right. I'm here to stay. What? Really? Izuku and Asia asked. Really, Hisashi confirmed. Then as Inko went back into the kitchen, Hisashi leaned in to whisper into Izuku and Asia's ears. Not only am I here to stay, but I can also help out in any supernatural matters, including that new dragon mode of yours, champ. It should come in handy in the future, especially for the UA entrance exam. Yeah, I'd very much like that, Izuku said with a smile as he hugged his dad. Asia stood by with a smile until Hisashi pulled her into the hug as well. It was early December, and nearly 2 months had passed since Hisashi moved back into the apartment with his family, and things were going smoothly. Hisashi and Inko were as close as ever, and the former very much enjoyed the thought of Asia being their foster daughter. Occasionally, Hisashi took part in watching over Izuku and Asia's training, throwing in the training regimes that he went through when he joined the Mystic Keepers. One aspect of his son's training that Hisashi was heavily involved in was the Dragon Mode, which Izuku named Boosted Dragon Mode, based on what the sacred gear called out. So, how's your training treating you guys? Chacha asked Izuku and Asia. Class had ended a few minutes earlier and most of their classmates had already gone home. I've been mostly doing training with my quirk, growing vines, controlling them, and other things, Asia replied. I'm working on increasing my maximum limit on my boosted gear, Izuku said. Then his thoughts turned to a different matter. Even so, I barely know much about it. Like the voice I heard while fighting Vector, and the boosted dragon mode which gives me dragon traits. And, according to Buchu, there's a transfer ability that can let me pass the stored up power to someone or something else. That would be useful, sure. For example, if I transferred the power to Asia here, maybe her Twilight Healing's healing ability would be amplified. I want to try that. But I should get the hang of it before I put it into practice. And Buchu has advised me not to try too many things at once so I don't overwork myself. There he goes again, Chacha and Asia sighed in amusement as they watched Izuku mumble. By the way, how is it like now that your father's back? Oh, yeah, it's been great. He came up with a pretty solid training plan, and he even suggested more nutritious meals for my mom to cook up, Izuku replied, and then he asked her the same question back. How about you, Chacha? How's your training coming along? Pretty well, I'd say, Chacha replied. Like Izuku and Asia, Chacha had her own goal to be a hero. Izuku had already heard about it back when they became friends, and Asia found out when it came up in a conversation not long after the Bellos gang incident. Then, Asia had her own question. So, Chacha, how'd you adjust when you became a devil? I imagine you didn't cause yourself nearly as many headaches as I did due to forgetting not to pray to God. Actually, I wouldn't know what to tell you because I was born a devil. Izuku and Asia did a double take. You were a devil to begin with? Well, half devil, to be precise. See, my mother's human, that's how I have a quirk, and my father is a devil. He took her last name when they married, so that's why I have a Japanese-sounding family name. Oh, I see, that's interesting, Izuku said. The three continued to walk toward the school gate where Yumi was waiting. That's our cue, Izuku said to Chacha. See you tomorrow, Chacha. Yeah, see you tomorrow. Chacha watched as Izuku and Asia met up with Yumi. Seeing Asia so close to Izuku sparked a bit of envy in her, but it also gave her resolve. I won't lose, she internally declared. She would make it into UA as well. Initially, she never thought too much about which hero school she planned on attending, though she did think about UA, because Leisha went there. However, she now had a bigger motivation to aim specifically for UA. If she's going to UA with Izuku, then I'll do the same. At the Orc Room, Rias revealed some upcoming plans in the next few days. It's almost the night of the full moon again, and I checked to make sure there are no other devil peerages with the same plans, so you know what this means. Ah, what does it mean? Izuku asked, clueless. We're going to the Forest of Familiars again, silly, Akino informed, to hopefully find you a familiar. Izuku then recalled their last visit to the Forest of Familiars 2 months ago, and how only Asia was able to get a familiar, the sprite dragon Razuku. Last month, they didn't go because it was Sona's group's turn to get a familiar for Saji, and he got an awesome one, according to what he heard. Oh yeah, that's right. I didn't get one last time. Maybe this time, you can get one that suits you, Izuku, Yumi said encouragingly. Yeah, I hope I do. I really wouldn't want to have to go there a third time, Izuku said. If you do, that would be embarrassing, Kaneko commented. Ah, don't worry about it. I'm sure you'll find one that's a perfect fit, Ijiro reassured. Izuku noticed the rhyme and couldn't help but compare it to Zatoichi. In my opinion, I don't think you should be in such a hurry to make the first thing you find your familiar. Get to know many of them, then you're bound to find the right one, Itsuka advised. Yeah, I don't really know much, but it sounds to me like it's almost like choosing a pet. You can't always expect to find the one you want at first glance, Mina added. That night after Inko had gone to sleep, Izuku and Asia were in the living room, doing their homework while thinking about their second trip to the forest of familiars. Then, Hisashi came into the room. Hey, kids, doing homework, I see? Hey Dad, how was it on your walk? Izuku asked. Just fine. No supernatural shenanigans or much crime, Hisashi replied. A nice casual walk around the city under the almost full moon night. Yeah, a full moon. This time I'm gonna get a familiar, Izuku declared. Oh, so you're getting a familiar, huh? Asia too? Hisashi asked. Actually, I already have one, Asia replied. Wait, Asia has one but you don't. How come, Izuku? The last time we went, we ran into a few troubles, including slimes, and by then, only Asia was able to get one, Izuku replied. Ah, that's unfortunate. So, can I see? Sure. But you better get back, because he doesn't like other males, Asia warned. Oh, is it a sprite dragon or something? Hisashi asked. Yeah, Izuku replied, getting some distance from Asia. Ah, Hisashi noted as he also put some space between himself and Asia. Asia then used the summoning magic to call upon Razuku. Upon appearing, Razuku cuddled up to his master. Oh, Razuku, I'm happy to see you too. I've heard how rare sprite dragons are. To think that you managed to find one to make it your familiar is quite an accomplishment, Hisashi said as he observed Razuku from a distance. I don't know if you'll be able to find a familiar as rare as that, Izuku, but I'm sure you'll find one that suits you. Thanks, Dad, Izuku said. Then, the night of the full moon arrived again, and the whole peerage met up in the clubroom to make their departure. Okay, Izuku, we're heading back. Are you ready? Rias asked. Yeah, I'm ready, he replied. All right, here we go, Akino called out. This time, I'm going to make sure I find a familiar, Izuku repeated to himself as the peerage warped away. The forest where the familiars dwell. It looks the same as it's ever been, Izuku commented on the forest's appearance again. Rias, Akino, Kaneko, Yumi, and Asia summoned their familiars to let them roam around in their old habitat. Then, the familiar gruff voice of the familiar master Zatoichi greeted their ears. Well, if it isn't the team of Grimoires? This sure brings back memories. Zatoichi then hopped down from the treetop he was on to greet the returning guests. A strong one that soars, or one with an excellent kick? Tell me, boy, which one will you pick? Well, to be honest, I'm not exactly sure what kind of familiar I want, Izuku sheepishly admitted. Hearing Izuku's indecisiveness, Zatoichi waved his index finger at him in disapproval. Tesk. This is why amateurs always annoy. If you want yourself a familiar, you better make up your mind, my boy. Izuku took the criticism to heart and thought of one that might suit him. Well, what do you have in mind for a strong one? Strong one, you say? I know where plenty of them dwell, so this might be your lucky day. Zatoichi looked on with approval at Izuku coming to a decision. I've already got something in mind for ya. Try your luck with this one, why don't ya? What is it? Izuku asked. The Chaos Dragon King Tiamat, the only female among them. No devil has been able to tame this one yet. However, if you can succeed, no doubt she'll serve you well, I'll bet. For some unknown reason, Izuku felt the chills as his senses told him to pick anything but her. Maybe something else? Then what about a hydra, a mighty 9-headed snake that carries a deadly venom that no devils can endure? Not only is it immortal, but it can even kill its master, the worst creature for sure. How about we skip all the ones that could potentially kill their users? Because I do not feel like getting killed by the creature that's supposed to help me, Izuku said. Yet another request, though it's only fair, you know yourself the best, Zatoichi said. What about an Undyne? They pack quite a power, and they like to dwell at a lake so serene. An Undyne, huh? You should try it, Izuku. Undynes are female sprites, and if you had a feminine familiar, maybe it can help you with your shyness around unfamiliar girls, Rias suggested. Well, I guess it couldn't hurt to try. Sure, why not? Izuku agreed. Zatoji soon brought the group to a calm lake in the middle of the forest. This lake is awesome. Righteous and right. At the bottom, you'll find a magical sprite. Then a spot on the water began to glow. Whoa, check out the lake, Yumi said. Here we go. Looks like a sprite is about to show, Zatoji said. Then, a feminine humanoid figure emerged from the lake. She had some muscles and bandages wrapped around her ankles, and she wore a pink dress that accentuated her figure. Her hair was blonde, styled into curls at the bottom. However, her face was anything but girly, as it looked more like that of a male bodybuilder, complete with her eyes being obscured by a shadow to add more to the masculine image. The Undyne let out a battle cry as she turned around to face the devils. Take a look. That's off the hook, Zatoji commented. Undyne are rare water sprites with megawatt power. A familiar like that would make your enemies cower. I think I'll have to decline. She looks like she could pick me up and break me in half, Izuku said. Plus, I don't think she can really help me become less shy around girls, and not for the reason you might be thinking. If she doesn't fit your groove, then I suppose onward we should move, Zatoji said. With that, the group left the lake behind to look for familiars elsewhere. Well, this isn't going that well, Izuku lamented. Cheer up. We've only just begun, Akino said. Yes, we might have hit a few bumps, but that's no reason to be down in the dumps, Zatoji added. Then, Asia felt something slimy on her body, and so did the other girls. It was something they remembered all too well, a shower of slimes. Why are there slimes here? I thought we're far away from the spot we saw them last time. Yumi yelled in a panicked tone as she got pelted with the green gelatinous globs. Ah, something I should have mentioned but forgot. The slimes, they've temporarily migrated to this very spot, Zatoji explained. The girls started having their clothes dissolved again, but this time they knew what to expect and reacted much quicker to get the slimes off and eliminate them. In the end, the damage to their clothes wasn't anything too significant, to their and Izuku's reliefs. Zatoji then got a gut punch from Kaneko for failing to warn them. Then, they all heard the sound of something being kicked and hitting another object. What was that? Asia asked. Let's go find out, Rias said. When the group followed the noise to its source, they found an anthropomorphic rabbit-like creature. It was mostly white with some green on its ears, neck, and toes. Its eyes were black with green highlights, and it had lighter green pads on the bottom of its feet with a yellow band shape resembling a bandage across its face. The rabbit kicked several rocks at a tree, hitting one particular spot with excellent precision. The ace striker, a familiar of the uncommon variety known for their amazing kicks. Once they mature, their feet can easily shatter bricks, Zatoji informed. "Aw, it's cute," Asia said. What do you think, Izuku? Think that'll make a good familiar for you? Yumi asked. Yeah, it just might, Izuku said. Then he began to approach the ace striker. The ace striker stopped its kicking session to notice Izuku. Hi? The ace striker narrowed its eyes before scurrying off. Looks like it was not meant to be, Kaneko commented. My, that ace striker is quite a fickle being, but there's plenty more, so let's get back to sightseeing, Zatoji said. After a few more minutes of walking, the howling and snarling of wolves were heard. What was that? Izuku asked. Ooh, that sounds like dire wolves, always traveling in a pack. And for them, an ace striker might as well be an afternoon snack. Izuku then remembered the ace striker from earlier, and despite it rejecting him, he still wanted to make sure it was okay. I'm going after them. I'm worried about that ace striker. Even though it didn't seem to like you? Kaneko asked. Yeah, I still can't ignore it if it might be in trouble, Izuku said as he summoned his boosted gear and ran toward the direction that the sounds came from. Boost. Dire wolves are among the familiars that can kill their masters. Careful, my boy, or else in your future, there will be plenty of disasters, Zatoji said as he followed after Izuku, followed by the other young devils. The ace striker looked worn out. It had visible wounds on its body and a few scrapes. It panted as it looked at the dire wolves that had it surrounded. Although it managed to fend off one or two, ultimately, it couldn't handle the entire pack. The dire wolves eventually cornered their prey and were ready to attack when suddenly, Izuku arrived on the scene in his boosted dragon mode. Boost! With another boost to add to his current strength, Izuku punched a dire wolf away with his boosted gear arm. "Are you okay?" Izuku asked the ace striker, who was surprised to see the boy it had rejected earlier coming to its rescue. Then, another dire wolf lunged at Izuku, but a lightning bolt stopped it in midair. "Look at you, already saving the day like a real hero," Akino said. Then, Kaneko slammed her fists into a dire wolf's side, and Yumi cut down another with a few swings of her sword. "Don't let that be the death of you," Kaneko said. "Ah, don't worry about it, Izuku. I think it's admirable of you," Yumi said. Then, Asia grew out her hair into vines to ensnare some of the dire wolves, and Rias blasted them with magic energy. As the peerage started beating the dire wolves, they began to retreat. Taking on dire wolves is no easy feat. Congrats on not getting turned into mincemeat," Zadoji commented. However, there was still one left, lurking in the shadows undetected. As the devils were getting ready to go, the dire wolf leaped out from its hiding place right at the ace striker. "Watch out!" Izuku leaped at the ace striker to get it away from the dire wolf, and when he made contact with the rabbit familiar, he instinctively tried something with his boosted gear. Transfer. The boosted power stored in Izuku's sacred gear then moved to the ace striker, making it stronger. The ace striker then ran up to the dire wolf and landed an empowered kick on its face, sending it flying back. "Hey, it worked," Izuku said. Then, the ace striker took a small rock from the ground and kicked it into the air before hitting it with another kick to shoot it at the dire wolf, striking its abdomen. This caused the dire wolf to flee like the rest of its pack. "Wow, I'm impressed. Even though you haven't had much practice with transfer, you managed to use it to give the bunny the power it needed to beat that wolf," Rias complimented. "Yeah, I guess I did, didn't I?" Izuku said. Then he turned to the bunny in question. "Well, we'll be off now. Take care of yourself." Izuku barely took a few steps forward when the rabbit familiar clung to his leg. "Wait, do you want to come with me?" "Well, you did save its life. I think you've made a friend," Rias said. "I think it's wonderful, Izuku," Asia said. "Good job," Kaneko gave him a thumbs up. "Nothing less for an aspiring hero," Yumi added. Hearing this, Izuku turned to the ace striker. "So, how about it? Do you want to be my familiar?" The ace striker grinned and hopped happily. "Well, I think we have a winner. Now, let's hurry along, 'cause I gotta make dinner," Zadoji said. Then, one familiar contract ceremony later, the ace striker had become bonded to Izuku as his familiar. "Now then, I guess I should give you a name," Izuku said as he kneeled down to face his familiar at face level. "What do I call you? Nothing comes to mind." "Ah, shoot." The ace striker's ears rose upon hearing the word shoot. "Did you see that?" Akino asked. "Yeah, I did." "Shoot," Izuku repeated, and the ace striker hopped excitedly. Okay. I think I'm getting somewhere. Shoot. Shoot. How about shooter?" The familiar jumped up and did a flip before smiling at its master. "Okay then, from now on, your name is Shooter," Izuku said. Shooter smiled and held up a paw. Izuku recognized the gesture and held up his hand, but rather than the paw it held up, Shooter instead used its foot for the high five. Regardless, Izuku recognized the gesture and smiled. "Ah, look! They already have their own special high five," Akino said. As Shooter climbed onto his shoulder, Izuku smiled at his new companion. He was another step closer to climbing the ranks of devils. "The next time you get new members, come back anytime, and I'll try to keep you away from the nasty slime," Zadoji bid farewell to the Gremory group as they left the forest. The next day in the clubroom, Izuku summoned Shooter for Itsuka, Ijiro, and Mina to see. "Ah, it's a rabbit. It's so cute." Mina gushed at how cute Shooter was as she petted its chin. "So its species is called Ace Striker for their specialty in kicking, huh?" Itsuka asked. "I'd like to see it in action." Upon hearing this, Shooter picked up an empty water bottle from the sofa table, and after juggling the bottle with its feet, kicked the bottle into a trash can that was halfway across the room. "Whoa, now that's a kick, so manly," Ijo said. Akino then picked up Shooter and looked over it. "Yep, I'd say that's quite manly, all right, as this little bunny is in fact a male." Shooter then leaped down from Akino's arms and headed over to his master. Izuku held out his hand, and they did their signature high five. "Wow, you guys already have your own high five?" That's adorable, Mina commented. Well, technically, he came up with it, Izuku said. All that aside, the most important thing is, I'm proud of you. Keep it up, okay? Rias said, stroking Izuku's chin. Why, yeah. Oh, of course, Izuku stammered. Asia sent a jealous look his way, and Mina grinned excitedly at the potential romantic drama. In a large mansion in Devil Territory, a young girl was preparing tea and sweets on a round table. Her blonde hair was tied in twintails with large, drill-like curls and blue ribbons keeping them in place. The front of her hair had several bangs hanging over her forehead, with a V-shaped fringe hanging over the bridge of her nose. She wore a long, pink dress with white frills and a magenta bow in the front. She wore matching pink shoes and light pink stockings. In layman's terms, she looked like a teenage princess. "Riser, the tea is ready," she said to the other occupant in the room, an older man in a sharp suit who also had blonde hair. He was sitting on a chair by a wall, looking at a photo of a 14-year-old Rias Gremory wearing a white dress. "Is that you, Ravel?" Riser asked without taking his eyes off the picture. Ravel decided to let him be as she poured herself a cup of tea. "How are the wedding preparations coming along?" Ravel asked as she blew at the tea to cool it down. "Ah," he smirked, as if anything could possibly go wrong. The months passed by until it became late February. At last, the UA entrance exam was only a day away. After a day of some final training, Izuku and Asia were heading to get a good night's rest in order to be in ideal condition for the exam. "Tomorrow's the big day." "I'm so nervous," Asia said. "Yeah, me too. We've trained hard for this, but it still feels like it might not be enough," Izuku said. "But it won't do us good to worry, so let's get some proper rest." And with that, the two entered their rooms. "Damn it, say it ain't so. This has to be some kind of mistake." Izuku heard the voices of Katsuki's two friends as he noticed that they were crying. Katsuki was also there with his parents, dressed formally, but he seemed uninterested in what was happening and just wanted to go home. Then Izuku realized he was in a white tuxedo. Why am I wearing this? It's not fair. How's that guy getting married before us?" Katsuki's buddies once again complained. "Married?" Izuku paled. "I'm getting married. How? He was only 15 and not even in high school yet. Not to mention, he had no idea who he was marrying." Then, he saw his parents. Inko was dressed in a red gown, and Hisashi wore light blue dress clothes, standing behind her. "I hope our first grandchild is a girl," Inko said while miraculously keeping the tears to only a few drops and not a flood like usual. "Izuku, as your father, I'm proud to say that you're now a real man," Hisashi praised with a smile. "There's no need to look so restless, Izuku." Izuku then heard the lovely voice of Rias. There she was by his side, dressed in a pure white wedding dress that reached her feet. The dress was strapless, allowing her impressive bosom to be seen. A bouquet of white flowers was held in her gloved hands, a veil was lifted over her head, and her beauty was enhanced with makeup. "Just bask in the moment." "Is this for real?" Izuku screamed internally. "I'm marrying Buchu." As the pastor recited the prayer, Izuku tried not to look nervous, but inside his mind, he was a total wreck. He never imagined that he'd be getting married to such a beautiful girl like Rias. "We're here." At the sound of Rias's voice, Izuku was brought back to reality, only to find themselves in front of a love hotel. He then remembered that newlywed couples often start their honeymoon with all-night-long passionate sex. "Shall we?" Rias asked with a smile. Yeah," Izuku nodded slowly, his face still bright red. The room that they checked into had a typical design with colors mostly red and pink to stimulate passion. The rug was so soft that guests could make love on the floor right then and there. There was one round bed, and on its side was a nightstand with a control panel. Rias washed herself off in the shower while Izuku twitched his thumbs like crazy while sitting nervously on the bed. Izuku looked around the room, and there were bottles of wine, lit scented candles, and massage oils on a nearby table. As his timid nature surfaced, he gulped loudly. He was about to enter uncharted territory. Other than the times he played house with Aiken, he had never been with a girl at all. But this was no children's game, it was adult reality. He did find her attractive like any other heterosexual male, though he couldn't wrap his head around the fact that he had caught her interest. and now here he was, on their first night together, ready to seal their relationship with a night of passion. "Oh, Izuku." Izuku quickly turned his head at the sound of Rias's voice. There was Rias, out of the bathroom with her sexy body enveloped by a towel, which didn't stay on for long, allowing the goods underneath to be revealed. The elegant young lady was in a very smoking lingerie, a white floral lace bustier with a lace up front, boning, garter straps, underwire cups, adjustable shoulder straps, matching fingerless gloves, and G-string with matching sheer stockings. You look wow," that was all he could say. Rias giggled as she sauntered over to him. She pushed him down on the bed and climbed on top, straddling his waist. "Sorry, I'm not really used to this yet," Izuku stuttered, his voice beginning to crack. "There's no need to apologize, my dear Izuku," Rias smiled, her eyes half-lidded as she cupped both her hands to his face. Izuku could feel his heart throbbing. It was so loud, it practically thundered in his eardrums. "If you want, I can lead." Rias leaned down and puckered her lips, wanting to seal the moment with a kiss. Izuku didn't know what else to do but breathe deeply and close his eyes. His arms reacted on their own and wrapped around her waist, bringing her in closer, the lips just inches. "Sorry to interrupt this moment you're having, but it's time you and I meet face to face, boy." Izuku's eyes shot open as he quickly sat up. The scene changed as Rias suddenly disappeared, leaving Izuku alone in a black void. Hey, I've heard that voice before. It was back when he went boosted dragon for the first time. "You have? After all, I am inside you." "You, what?" Izuku asked. "Why ask a question when you know the answer?" Izuku then turned to find himself surrounded by a sea of flames, and amid the inferno was a gigantic red dragon. "I've been speaking to you for a long time. Perhaps my voice never reached you because you've been too weak to hear me." What do you want?" Izuku asked. "I merely wanted to say hello to my partner, the one I shall be fighting alongside from this moment forward." "Partner? I still don't know who you are." "Quit being dramatic. You know exactly who I am." "Wait, I still have..." Izuku tried to call out for the voice, only to see the boosted gear appear on his left arm as it glowed green. Izuku opened his eyes to find himself back in bed. As he sat up, he looked at his left arm which housed the boosted gear. What a dream, but what was with that big dragon? However, he didn't have time to ponder on that as he saw the clock read nearly 5:30 a.m., time for his morning exercise. However, that wasn't what was most important today. The entrance exam. After some jogging, he returned to the apartment to see Asia preparing breakfast. "Good morning, Izuku," she greeted. "Good morning," Izuku greeted back. "Are Mom and Dad still asleep?" "Yeah, they are." As the two ate breakfast, they talked about what the exam might be like. Once they were done, the two had their training clothes packed and were ready to head out. "Okay, we're heading out," Izuku said to his parents, who were now awake to see them off. "Good luck, kids. No matter what happens, I'll be proud of you both," Inko assured. "Don't let the pressure get to you, and no doubt you'll ace it," Hisashi said. It was now 8:40 a.m., and Izuku and Asia arrived at UA right on time for the entrance exam. The two were right outside the school, staring up at the rather huge entrance that they'd seen plenty of times before, but right now, it put them under a lot of pressure. "Wow, even though we've been here many times before, it sure feels different today," Asia said. "Yeah, this is it, do or die. Today's the day that will determine whether or not we are actually going to attend here," Izuku said, swallowing a lump in his throat. "Even so, it can't be that bad as facing against Rainier or Vector." That last part gave Asia some reassurance, and then, "Stupid Deku." Izuku immediately paused. "Kaken. Get out of my way now before I set you on fire," Katsuki threatened. "Wah! Oh, hey, good morning. Let's all do our best out there, okay?" Izuku said as he complied with Katsuki's demand. As Izuku stammered, Katsuki walked past Izuku, not paying much attention to Asia. "Why is he always so angry with you?" Asia asked. She had seen plenty of times in class when Katsuki flipped out at Izuku. "Oh, that's just Kaken. That's how he's pretty much always been," Izuku replied. Then he shook that thought aside to remind himself why he was there. "I have to remember all the work I put in," he thought as he put one foot forward, taking one small step towards his future. thanks to Rias, I'm actually going to be a hero. Then it was followed by one embarrassing fall for his self-worth as he tripped over his own feet. Or I'll just die again. However, the contact with the hard ground never occurred as he suddenly found himself floating a few inches above the ground. Next to him was a girl with brunette hair styled in a bob cut with 2 bangs going along the side of her face on each side. She had brown eyes and a perma blush on her face. "Ha! Are you okay?" As Izuku flailed midair in confusion, the brunette helped him back down on solid ground. "I stopped you with my quirk. I'm sorry I didn't ask first. But I figured you wouldn't mind me catching you." Oh, why, yeah, thanks. You saved me from eating pavement," Izuku said. "Isn't this like way nerve-wracking?" "Yeah, tell me about it." "Well, I guess I'll see you inside. Bye," the girl said before entering the campus building. "He's a bit plain looking, but still kinda cute. Wait, why did I just think that? But still, I wouldn't mind if we got to be in the same class together." She was pretty nice, Izuku thought as Asia caught up to him. When she noticed him smiling at the brunette, she pouted in envy and tugged at his arm to get his attention. "Hey, been waiting long?" The voice of Mina suddenly got their attention as she, Itsuka, and Ijiro ran up to them. "I'm so pumped for this. Who else is ready?" Ijiro asked. "I'd like to say yes, but I'd be lying," Asia admitted. "Yeah, pre-exam jitters," Itsuka said. "Even so, let's get in there and take care of the written exam." Yeah, with that, the 5 headed inside. "So, how'd you do on the exam?" Izuku asked Asia as they headed into a lecture hall. "It wasn't too hard. All thanks to you helping me study," Asia replied. "What about you?" "Great, I believe," Izuku answered. The exam questions were mostly a breeze for him. Inside, they found their seats, which happened to be right next to Katsuki, causing Izuku to have a small panic attack. Luckily for him, Katsuki only gave them a simple annoyed look before ignoring them. Izuku was relieved by the minimal interaction as he and Asia took their seats, with Asia sitting between Izuku and Katsuki. "How do you think Ijiro, Mina, and Itsuka did on the test?" Asia asked. "I'm sure they passed. Now we just need to worry about the practical," Izuku said, confident that their friends passed the first part of the entrance exam. Suddenly, the lights lit up over the center of the stage in the room, drawing everyone's attention forward as the large screen lit up and showed a golden logo of UA. "What's up, UA? Candidates? Thanks for tuning in to me, your school DJ." The speaker was a tall, skinny man standing in the center of the stage with long blonde hair spiked upwards and a small mustache. He wore sunglasses and a pair of headphones with the word Hage on the headband. He also had a black jacket that was studded on the collar, which was upturned, and had shoulder pads and a red studded belt with black pants, boots, and fingerless gloves. He also seemed to have a directional speaker around his neck. "Come on, and let me hear ya." He turned around and put a hand over his ears to hear the response, but all he got was dead silence. And here I thought Shota was a sourpuss. "Keeping it mellow, huh? That's fine. I'll skip straight to the main show. Let's talk about how this practical exam's gonna go down. Are you ready? Chi." He once again got only silence. "Oh my goodness, it's the voice hero, Present Mike. So cool," Izuku said, excited to see a pro hero in person. "I listen to his radio show every day of the week. It's so crazy nuts that UA has pro heroes as teachers." "Will you shut up?" Katsuki grumbled, annoyed by Izuku's fanboying. "Like your application said. Today you rockin' boys and girls will be out there conducting 10-minute mock battles in super hip urban settings. Gird your loins, my friends. After I drop the mic here, you'll head to your specified battle centers. Sound good?" There was once again silence as the examinees checked their applicant cards. "Okay. I see. They're splitting us up, so we can't work with any of our friends," Katsuki noted as he took a peek at Asia and Izuku's cards. "Yeah, you're right," Izuku said as he and Asia checked each other's cards. "Our examinee numbers are one after the other, but we're assigned to different battle centers." He was in Center B while Asia was assigned to E. "Damn," Katsuki muttered under his breath. "I was really looking forward to crushing you." Izuku let out a nervous laugh while Asia shot Katsuki a dirty look. Then, the screen showed a display of the battle center as Present Mike moved on to the next part of the explanation. Okay. Let's check out your targets. There are 3 types of foe villains in every battle center. You'll earn points based on their level of difficulty, so better choose wisely. Your goal in this trial is to use your quirk to raise your score by shredding these foe villains like a mid-song guitar solo. But check it. Make sure you're keeping things heroic. Attacking other examinees is a UA. No, you dig. Excuse me, sir? But I have a question. A tall boy with blue hair and glasses stood straight up with his hand raised high. Hit me, President Mike pointed at the boy, and the spotlight shined on him. On the printout, you listed 4 types of villains, not 3, he stated. With all due respect, if this is an error on official UA materials, it's shameful. We are exemplary students. We expect the best from Japan's most notable school. A mistake such as this won't do. Then he pointed toward Izuku. Additionally, you, with the unkempt hair, his eyes showed clear disdain and criticism. You've been muttering this entire time. Stop that. If you can't bother to take this seriously, leave. You're distracting the rest of us. Sorry, Izuku said, covering his mouth and lowering his head as the other examinees began laughing at him. Asia did not like the boy's attitude towards Izuku and was about to speak up in his defense, but someone beat her to it. Was that really necessary? A girl asked. I beg your pardon, the boy said, surprised that someone disagreed with his lecturing. The attention was now on the girl. She was an American with long black hair, a blue headband over her bangs, blue eyes, fair skin, and red lipstick. She wore a midriff-bearing white shirt with a red collar, red sleeves, and a red oval on her chest, along with blue skinny jeans and red-white sneakers. Like I said, was that really necessary? The girl repeated. Can you really blame him for getting a little excited over seeing President Mike and probably being nervous about the exam? And I think the last thing he needs is some snob making him feel worse. But that muttering, it's distracting, the boy countered. Such behavior is inappropriate in a prestigious institute like this. I'm way closer to him than you are, and you don't hear me or anyone else around me complaining, do you? The girl asked rhetorically. You know what's more distracting than some small muttering? A guy standing up and demanding his questions be answered? If you have a question, why not just raise your hand like a normal person instead of shooting up and trying to be the center of attention? The tables were turned on the glasses boy, and now he was the target of everyone's laughter as he struggled to come up with a proper response. Luckily for him, President Mike stepped in to defuse the situation. All right, calm down. Examinee numbers 70-111 and 40-304. To answer your request 70-111, the 4th villain type is worth 0 points. That guy's just an obstacle we'll be throwing in your way. There's one in every battle center. Think of it as a hurdle you should try to avoid. It's not that it can't be beaten, but there's kinda no point. I recommend, my listeners, try to ignore it and focus on the ones top in the chart. Thank you very much. Please continue, the blue-haired boy thanked as he did a perfect 90 bow before sitting back down. Oh, I get it. So they're kinda like traps you have to get by in games. This whole thing's like a video game, huh? Some random examinees discussed the 0-pointer. Izuku turned toward the girl who defended him. She noticed him from the corner of her eyes as he mouthed a thank you. She understood and gave Izuku a small smile and a nod. That's all I've got for you today. I'll sign off with a little present, a sample of our school motto. As General Napoleon Bonaparte once laid down, a true hero is one who overcomes life's misfortunes. Now that's a tasty soundbite. You're ready to go beyond. Let's hear a plus ultra. Good luck. Hope you've practiced hitting more than just books. That was encouraging, Asia said as she sat up. Yeah, now we better get to our battle centers. Good luck, Izuku said as he held out his hand. You too, Asia said as she shook Izuku's hand. One bus ride later, everyone had arrived at their respective battle centers, each housing a fake city that the mock battle would be held in. In Center E, Asia looked up at the huge entrance to the battle site, and it made her feel a bit intimidated. She was hoping Izuku could have been by her side for some reassurance, but that idea fell through when it was revealed that they were making sure that students from the same school would be separated. Hey, looks like we're in the same group. Itsuka, seeing a familiar face made Asia's nervousness dissipate a bit. I don't blame ya if you're nervous. This is honestly quite a lot, in my opinion, Itsuka said. Makes me feel that this might be a little too biased against people with quirks that won't work well against robots. Meanwhile, Chacha was at another battle center, staring up at the gates to the battleground with anticipation. She did have butterflies in her stomach, sure, but she wasn't about to let that drag her down. She wasn't the queen of Leisha Asteroth for nothing. She would make it into UA, both for her own goals to be a hero and to be with Izuku. Speaking of Izuku, she first met him when she started attending Aldera Junior High, not long after she joined Leisha's peerage, whom she got acquainted with thanks to a connection from her devil father. She came to learn that Izuku was quirkless, and honestly, he didn't stand out to her all that much other than that he muttered a lot. However, she did notice that he seemed to be the frequent target of wrath from the explosive boy Katsuki Bakugou. Other than that, her middle school experience was nothing out of the ordinary. She made some friends and hung out with them from time to time. Then, that life-changing incident occurred. A family friend of hers on her mother's side, someone who was like an older brother to her in her childhood, died in a villain attack. He was the Jaguar hero, Nox, and the one who inspired Chacha to be a hero. Though the whole family mourned Nox's sacrifice to stop the villain, Chacha was the one most affected, even doubting her aspirations of being a hero. Her social life also took a hit as in her grief. She stopped seeing her friends and they soon became distant from her. Leisha and the rest of her peerage tried all they could to make Chacha feel like her old self again, but nothing worked. Then one day at the beginning of the first semester of her third year, she saw a pair of siblings walk by outside the school gate, an older brother caring for his younger sister as the two laughed cheerfully. The sight caused Chacha to fall to her knees and break down in tears. Despite a lot of students bearing witness to the scene, no one reached out to her because she had grown socially distant. All except one. When she felt a comforting hand around her shoulder, she looked up to see the concerned face of Izuku. She was honestly surprised that someone showed concern for her, asking if she was okay, to which she gave a shaky nod. Afterward, he took her to a nearby cafe where she got to know him better. She heard he had trouble talking with girls, but at that moment when he was trying to make her feel better, all that shyness seemed to have disappeared, almost like she was talking with someone else, though it did come back a little when her mood started to pick up and she began conversing back. Izuku told her about his dream to be a hero, one who selflessly saves everyone in need with a smile on his face, just like All Might. Hearing Izuku's motivation reminded Chacha of her own reasons for wanting to be a hero. Growing up, Nox would tell her his experiences working as a pro hero, and his words of wisdom for doing what he did was to ensure that normal people could continue to live their peaceful lives so that they had a tomorrow they could look forward to. It was at this moment that a friendship started to form that eventually developed into a crush. They talked more and more often, and soon, Izuku started being able to talk to her without any bits of shyness, and Chacha started returning to her old self, to the relief of everyone else in the peerage, especially Leisha. And now, after months of training, here she was, standing with other hopeful UA applicants, determined to make it into UA. She wasn't the only one from her group applying for the hero course, as Orihime was too. Despite this, the butterflies in her stomach were quite feisty. "Hold up, Akaninjin." Chacha turned in the direction her name was called from. It took a moment to recognize the voice, as Chacha only briefly met her once when she tagged along with Izuku for training. It's a Shido, right?" Mina smiled as she walked up to Chacha. "Cool, we're in the same group," she said. "Yeah, I guess," Chacha said. "You ready for this?" "I'd say I am." "You're not nervous?" Chacha asked, surprised. "Girl, there's no point letting your nerves get to ya. If you want to pass, then you gotta have confidence," Mia said. "Try this, gather all the feeling into your gut, then let out a hearty laugh, like this. Ah-ha-ha-ha-ha-ha." Chacha did as instructed. Ah-ha-ha-ha-ha-ha. Then, just as Mina said, she started feeling more at ease. "Huh, it works. Told ya." Izuku and a small group of examinees arrived at Battle Center B. His entire body shook like a leaf, and there was a wobbly smile on his face. He looked back on everything that led to this moment, from the years of belittling. How he would never be a hero or amount to anything, to being reincarnated as a devil by Rias and making new friends along the way. It was thanks to them that he was given a chance. Now it was his moment to shine, to prove all the naysayers wrong. He would be a hero. a hero who saves everyone with a smile on his face, just like All Might. Then, while gazing at the other examinees, he spotted the brunette from earlier. Hey, it's her. The nice girl I met at the school gates. The one who kept me from falling. Izuku thought about going up to her to talk to her. But then Izuku noticed the glasses kid nearby. He's here too. Then, the girl noticed Izuku. Hey, it's you. Falling boy. Why yeah. That's me, Izuku said, recognizing that he already had a label for himself. Looks like we got assigned to the same battle center, she smiled. Yeah, how coincidental, Izuku replied. Meanwhile, the bespectacled teen was scanning his surroundings. He had come prepared for the exam with a special tracksuit that would reduce friction and cling tight to his body without chafing it. When he saw the other examinees, however, he could see that most of them seemed to not care or be more concerned about looking flashy than wearing something practical at least. Tracksuits, sweatpants, old t-shirts that looked far too big for those wearing them, and the occasional scarf that helped to create the image of a hero costume. He had no idea what some of them were even thinking by wearing their school uniforms. Then he noticed Izuku as the brunette noticed him and started a conversation. The nerve. Do they not realize they could cause a distraction for the other examinees? He was about to step in and demand that they cease what they were doing. But then he recalled how the black-haired girl called him out on his criticizing attitude, and he just ended up looking like a fool. Thinking back, he actually thought she had a point. Maybe he was a little too judgmental of someone he just met that day. He thought about talking to the green-haired boy to apologize for earlier when. Right, let's start. Get moving. The voice of present Mike announced. Get moving. There are no countdowns in real battles. Run, run, run. Listeners, you're wasting airtime here. Everyone stood in shock for a few seconds before they all snapped out of it and rushed into the battle center all at once. Izuku raced into the battle center, hoping to run into some villain bots to smash. He didn't have to look for too long when a 1-pointer and a 2-pointer set their sights on him. Target acquired. Commencing attack. The robots said as they moved to attack their targets. However, the Devil Boy's reflexes were too quick for the fake villains. In addition, Rias had enabled him to use promotion for the exam, and he was going to make the most of it. Promotion. Rook. Boost. Izuku quickly activated Boosted Dragon, summoning his wings that carried him over the villain bots. Then he fired a dragon shot at the 1-pointer, smashing it to bits. Afterward, he tore off the 2-pointer's tails and used one to impale it through the face, disabling it. 3 points. Not a bad start, Izuku noted. Then, he noticed some more robots in the distance and flapped his wings to fly after them. Meanwhile, Ijiro was up against 2 2-pointers. Both mechanical menaces aimed their stinger tails at Ijiro, but he hardened his body for defense, and the robots were unable to put a dent in Ijiro's rock-hard body. Then, Ijiro took his turn on the offensive by first punching into one of the bots, tearing a hole through its chassis, and then he sidestepped a blow from the other one before taking out its optics with a few punches. That's 4 points, Ijiro celebrated before noticing a 1-pointer. Make that 5, Ijiro rushed at the easy-level enemy and reared back his fist. However, the moment his fist connected and smashed the robot to bits, he noticed that another teen had also smashed the robot, leaving it difficult to determine who actually dealt the final blow. His body had a gray metallic appearance to it, and then he deactivated his quirk. His messy hair was still gray, his eyes were surrounded by a thick and jagged tan-colored substance which were seemingly his eyelashes. He seemed to have no eyebrows, and sharp teeth lined the inside of his mouth. Huh? Who the heck are you? Ijiro and the steel-quirked teen asked in unison. I asked you first. No, I did. Stop copying me. Me? You're the one copying me. Stop it. You stop it. As the two continued to argue, shouting more exact lines as they did, they failed to notice a 3-pointer heading their way. But it was quickly frozen in place before getting flipped over by Orihime, who was in her Okuchi no Makami form. This got the two to stop arguing and notice what had just happened. If you two want to keep arguing, it's fine by me. But that just means more points for the rest of us, Orihime advised before heading off to find more enemies. Oh crap, she's right. The boys once again synchronized, which they noticed, but they chose to ignore it and went off in opposite directions. Cha-Cha sped off into the make-believe city, looking for robots to smash. Her rabbit-like attributes, plus the knight aspect that came with her queen piece, allowed her to gain a head start on the others. Then, a two-pointer reared its mechanical mug to rush at her. Meatbag annihilate. Cha-Cha quickly came to a stop and jumped over the technological terror as it tried to lunge at her. Then, Cha-Cha's hair turned white and grew longer. Along with her tail and ears, the fur around her neckline became thicker. Her fingernails grew into claws, and her irises and sclerae turned light and dark red respectively. Before the robot could try to attack again, it was instantly smashed into scrap by a single kick from Cha-Cha. Cha-Cha Akaninjin. Her quirk, Were-Rabbit. Not only does she have rabbit traits, but she can also take on a more ferocious-looking form that grants her extra strength and speed. Not a bad warm-up. Cha-Cha smiled at her handiwork before noticing more robots in the distance and sped off. Meanwhile, Mina had borne witness to Cha-Cha's handiwork. Man, she looks like she's got this in the bag. Then she was confronted by 3 one-pointers. Then again, I've got a pretty neat trick myself. Mina grinned as she turned to face the robots and sprayed them with her acid, causing them to start dissolving. Elimina. Target Ac. Prepare for. The robots tried to finish as they melted down into metallic sludge. Aw yeah, 3 points, baby. Double jumbo fists. Izuku struck a 3-pointer with 2 enlarged fists, dealing a severe blow to it and rendering its systems offline. Nearby, Asia was up against a 1-pointer and a 3-pointer. Commencing attack, the bots announced as they lifted their arms to pummel Asia. However, Asia transformed her hair into vines and entangled the villain bots before lifting them into the air and dropping them. That's 4 more points, Asia said. How are you holding up, Asia? Izuku asked. Just fine. I was a bit worried when they said we'd have to fight, but I'm relieved it's only against robots, Asia said. Good. Now we just gotta keep up the good work and we'll be in the hero course in no time, Izuku said. Then, the girls heard a pained groan nearby. It came from another examinee whose foot was stuck underneath some rubble. Izuku and Asia went over to help him out. Izuku and Asia used their enlarged hands and vines respectively to lift the rubble. You okay? Izuku asked. Then, Asia used Twilight Healing to heal the boy's ankle. Phew, thanks. You're both lifesavers, the boy thanked before heading off. Diddy. Katsuki Bakugou unleashed an explosion that blew apart a 2-pointer. Then, without much delay, he unleashed another explosion to launch himself toward more robots, leaving the gathering of extras behind to eat his dust. The physical exertion, combined with the heat from the explosions, worked in his favor as that allowed him to produce more of his nitroglycerin-like sweat for more explosions. Then, as the mob of 6 one-pointers all blindly rushed at him, he made a maniacal grin. Burn, ya bucket of bolts! Katsuki swung his arm downward to cause the ground below to erupt. However, there was a reason he aimed for the ground rather than the robots directly. The smoke from the explosion not only served to block their vision, but also to leave the other examinees in a coughing and wheezing fit, allowing Katsuki to deal with the one-pointers without interruptions. With the defeat of all those one-pointers, that was another 6 to his score. Not that he was keeping track, nor that it mattered. After all, he would undoubtedly beat the highest number of robots and have enough points to pass the exam at least twice. Then, Katsuki flew up into the air with his explosion, getting a leg up on all the extras as he roamed the model city in search of other robots to send to robot hell. Then, he noticed a 3-pointer in the corner of his vision, but before he could even react and go after it, someone else beat into it. Zap! A bright green energy beam shot out and blasted the robot right through the optic and the head, disabling it. Katsuki looked up to see the girl from the lecture hall who came to Deku's defense against Four Eyes' criticism. Not only was she floating in midair, but her jet black hair had turned snow white and her icy blue eyes were now glowing green. Her skin was slightly tanned and a thin white glow enveloped her body. Her blue headband was swapped with a black one, and she wore a black jumpsuit with white elbow-length gloves, collar, belt, and thigh-high boots. Guess you didn't see that coming, did ya? The girl made a witty banter at the wreckage of the 3-pointer. "'Kay, that makes it 29. Then her legs morphed into a ghost-like tail as she flew off to look for other robots. Katsuki was annoyed that a kill had been stolen from him right under his nose. However, that just made him determined to be quicker to kill those bot bastards on sight. With that, he detonated another explosion to blast off and go find other robots that he could take out his frustrations on. Back with Izuku, he had defeated quite a number of robots by this point. However, he hadn't really been keeping score as he figured it might slow him down. As he looked up from the pile of scrap metal that was once a robot that he just scrapped, he noticed the brunette passing by. Her again. She pressed her fingertips against several downed robots, with the fingertips giving off a pink glow as she did so. Then, the robots started floating up into the air. Now, release, she brought her fingertips together. Then the robots immediately crashed to the ground. The girl showed signs of exhaustion, evident by her heavy breathing as she turned around to look at her handiwork. That should be at least 28 points. Meanwhile, the glasses kid sped forward, using the engines in his calves to boost himself towards a two-pointer, which barely had time to look up before it got wrecked by a dropkick from the boy. That puts me at 45. There were more shouts of examinees declaring their total score, along with arguments about kill stealing. Currently, UA's hero staff were in a surveillance room, monitoring the progress of the examinees. Clearly, the examinees have no idea how many villains are present or their locations. They have limited time, must cover a vast area, and hunt down every last target. Some use information gathering abilities to plan out strategies, while others rely on speed to pull ahead of their peers. Of course, remaining calm under pressure can be a huge advantage, as can pure power and combat ability. Principal Nezu commented as he observed various examinees, such as a young man with 6 arms attached to each other by a webbing of skin, the glasses-wearing engine boy, a flamboyant blonde who shot blue lasers from his navel, and Katsuki. The most successful students use a combination of all these tactics. They're the ones who rack up the highest scores. I'd say this year's group looks promising, the R-rated hero Midnight commented. Yeah, both unique and strong, Toshinori Yagi, a near-skeletal blonde man added. There's still plenty of time before it's over. The real test has yet to come, the cowboy-themed hero, Snipe said as he pressed a button labeled Yoruki Switch. Let's see how they react. Throughout the battle centers, a rumbling was felt in each area as the ground shook. Whoa, what's happening? Asia asked. I'm guessing it's something big, Itsuka said. Then she noticed a big shadow behind them. And that's an understatement. The white-haired girl had currently turned intangible to fly through the buildings to save time going around them when she noticed everything around her shake. What was that? She stuck her head out through the wall to see, and what she saw surprised her. Whoa, now that's an obstacle. Is that even allowed? Mina asked as she stared up in the distance. UA really doesn't pull its punches, does it? Chacha commented. Dust kicked up into the air and windows started cracking as a giant shadow loomed over the examinees. Izuku and the other examinees looked upward to see the zero-pointer, also known as the Executor, a massive robot that stood even taller than the buildings. It looked down upon the frightened teens with its 8 red optics as it grabbed the rooftops for some extra intimidation factor. Flashback. Think of it as a hurdle you should try to avoid. I recommend, my listeners, try to ignore it and focus on the ones top in the chart, Present Mike advised. End flashback. Izuku's jaw dropped. UA's definitely not messing around. Plus ultra, I guess. The zero-pointer brought its enormous fist down on the road, causing a thick dust cloud that enveloped the unfortunate examinees, forcing them to shield their eyes and mouths. The examinees all began tailing it out of there, including the engine kid as he passed by Izuku. Less than 2 minutes remaining, Present Mike announced. Hearing this, Izuku turned to run. That big one is worth 0 points. I should just get as far away from it as possible and find other smaller villains. He was about to spread his wings to take off when... Oh. Izuku turns back to see the brunette with her leg pinned by some fallen debris. She tried to get up and run but failed to do so as the rubble was too heavy. And to make matters worse, she was right in the path of the zero-pointer, which would no doubt crush her if it continued on without stopping. He then remembered how she had saved him earlier when he tripped. Flashback. I'm sorry I didn't ask first, but I figured you wouldn't mind me catching you, the brunette said. End flashback. Izuku raced towards the girl, fully intent on saving her from the giant robot. Realizing that he wouldn't be able to lift the weight off the girl and get her to safety before the massive machine flattened them, Izuku decided to go for the machine. Spreading his wings, Izuku flew up to the robot's face. With the boosted gear equipped on his left arm and plenty of energy gathered, he got ready for a punch. Dragon Smash. Explosion. With one swift punch, he unleashed all the energy built up inside the boosted gear at once, obliterating the zero-pointer's head. The rest of its body soon followed as it started breaking apart before the whole thing exploded. The brunette, the glasses kid, the other examinees, and the UA staff all stared in awe as Izuku pulled off such an unbelievable feat. I did it. Izuku slightly winced at the small pain in his left arm. He likely overdid it a little for his current limit, but right now, he was just happy that he was able to save the girl. He then descended to the ground as the girl used her quirk on the boulder, pinning her down to get free. "Are you okay?" "Yeah, thanks. I guess we're even now," the brunette replied. "And that's set. Time's up," Present Mike announced, bringing the mock battle to an end. An alarm rang throughout the faux city as the remaining robots stopped functioning. The glasses kid then noticed everyone muttering about Izuku's attack, basically about how they were surprised he had that kind of strength. However, he, on the other hand, was thinking something else. They're all missing the point. Don't they see what he did? He did it to save that girl. He must have known how little time was left, how many points he needed to pass. But despite those concerns, he didn't hesitate. He then clenched his fist as he remembered how he just ran like everyone else, not even bothering to try and help. And how he belittled Izuku during the lecture hall. If this hadn't been an exam then, of course, I would have done the same thing then. He realized something. Wait, the exam, the judges, they saw that. Very nice, good work, all around. The friendly voice of Recovery Girl got everyone's attention. You're heroes in my eyes. All of you. She then handed some gummies to an examinee. Here, reward yourselves. Have some gummies. Oh, thanks. Yes. Don't eat them all at once. Okay? Recovery Girl then made her way over to the brunette who was being helped by Izuku. Give me some sugar. Recovery Girl puckered her lips and kissed a bruise on the brunette's leg, to her surprise. What's she doing? An examinee asked. You're watching a school nurse in action, the naval laser boy replied. The youthful heroine, Recovery Girl. Then, the bruise on the girl started healing. Her quirk is a Trez awesome boost of healing power. She's the only reason UA can hold these reckless exams. Soon, the bruise was completely gone, almost like it was never there, though the brunette couldn't help but feel kind of tired. All right, you'll be fine now. Anyone else injured? Meanwhile, the glasses boy continued his pondering. I wonder, what if the exam has other parameters I didn't take into account? Then, he turned to Izuku. It's possible. After the exams were done, everyone met back up in the orc room. So, how did it go? Akino asked. Pretty well, I'd say, Izuku replied. It was only against robots, though I still felt bad about using violence against them, Asia admitted. It was a cinch for me to just melt them with my acid, Mina added. I ran into this dude who kinda copied my lines, but I didn't let it distract me, Ijiro claimed. The zero-pointer was a shock, but I'm just happy I was able to beat it to save that girl, Izuku said. A girl, you say? Mina asked, her interest piqued. Tell me, what was she like? Was she your type? Did she thank you with a kiss? The interrogation teasing began. Ashido, please stop. Izuku's face turned bright red. Asia pouted in envy, and Rias couldn't help but send a weird look their way, though she didn't know why. Anyway, I believe they should have your results ready in about a week. But still, I'm sure you guys all passed, Rias said. Yeah, no need to worry. I'm sure the results will be here before you know it, Yumi said. She was wrong. It was a long, stressful week as the hero course applicants anxiously waited for their exam results to arrive. Some combat training with Yumi, and occasionally Kaneko, did take their mind off things for a little while, but still, it was a long amount of waiting. Izuku had noticed that there wasn't much news about All Might. Nothing much about fighting off villains, rescuing civilians, or even just the small jobs. That was weird. And eventually, the moment of truth arrived. The letters, Izuku, Asia, they came. Izuku, Asia, look, you've got letters. They're here, your test results. From UA, Inko fumbled as she showed Izuku and Asia the acceptance letters, which were both sealed with a red UA emblem, confirming where they came from. Izuku and Asia took the letters to the former's room and closed the door while Inko and Hisashi waited from outside. Izuku sat at his desk and lit his lamp with Asia right beside him. They were going to view Izuku's letter first, which sat in the middle of the desk as the teens mentally prepared themselves. Well, here we go. Izuku gripped the envelope and tore it in half. Then a small disc-like device popped out. After the disc landed on the desk, it started projecting a holographic screen, and Izuku and Asia heard a booming voice they were not expecting to hear. Booyah, I am here as a projection now. All Might was on the camera, dressed in a yellow business suit that somehow managed to contain his burly physique. Wait, All Might? Asia asked. Naturally, she had gotten to know a lot about Japan's No.1 hero from Izuku, and she had become a big fan of his as well, though she never expected to see him in this scenario. All Might? Oh my gosh, it's him. Izuku's fanboy side took over before his rational thought took back control. But wait, this is from UA, isn't it? Izuku double-checked the seal on the envelope to make sure he had the right letter. I know I've been reclusive this past week, but with great power comes a great amount of paperwork. All Might then paused to clear his throat. My apologies, young man. The truth is, I didn't come to this city just to fight villains. You're looking at the newest UA faculty member. The two couldn't believe their ears. All Might, working at UA? He's seriously going to be working at UA? Asia asked. All Might nodded as if he was answering Asia's question. Then, a hand tapped him on the elbow, getting his attention. Huh? Yes, what's the matter? Who's showboating? Oh, sorry, I'll wrap it up. Wait, I have to do how many of these things? All Might then sighed as he turned his attention back to the camera. So, moving on, you've done quite well in the written test, which would qualify you for general studies. But that's not what you want to hear, is it? Now, moving on to the practical exam. Izuku and Asia tensed up as they waited with bated breaths. With combat points of 33 points, you've earned yourself plenty of points to pass the exam. Yes, Izuku celebrated. Asia joined in his joy by hugging him. But wait, there's more. The good news doesn't end there, so stay tuned. Huh? Izuku and Asia stopped celebrating to listen to All Might. But before we get to that, here, look, a short clip for your viewing pleasure. All Might turned to a screen bearing the UA logo and pressed on a remote, causing the screen to change to a video recording of the brunette girl trapped under the rubble, and Izuku destroying the zero-pointer to save her. You have great power, but it's your actions that inspire others. Izuku felt a bit of pride hearing those words from All Might. And that's why I am here. You see, the practical exam was not graded on combat alone, All Might explained. How could a hero course reject someone who is committed to saving others no matter the consequences to himself? After all, that is what makes a hero. And that's what my alma mater is all about. Training those who would risk their lives for the greater good. So we have rescue points, a panel of judges watches, and they award points for heroic acts beyond just fighting villains. Izukumidoriya, 60 rescue points. Then, in addition to Izuku's 33 villain points, 60 rescue points were added to his score, bringing the total to 93 overall. Congratulations! With your total points, you've surpassed all the other examinees into first place, All Might said. Is this some kind of joke? Izuku asked, hardly able to believe what he just heard. He scored first place on the practical. That means he got more points than Kaken. Welcome, Izuku. All Might reached out a welcoming hand to Izuku. You're now part of the Hero Academia. With All Might's final words for him, Izuku started crying tears of joy before quickly wiping them. Next, it was Asia's turn to view her letter. Her envelope contained the same holodisc as Izuku's, and it was generally the same message. All Might greeting her and telling her she did well on the written exam, and then giving her score on the practical, which came down to 30 villain points and 42 rescue points for a total of 72 points overall, which was more than enough to pass, earning her a place in the hero course as well. Izuku and Asia looked at each other with proud smiles as they hugged each other in celebration of their accomplishments. Outside the room, Inko nervously paced back and forth while Hisashi stood calm, confident that his son and adopted daughter both made it. Then, the door opened, and said boy and girl stepped out, both flashing a bright and worry-free smile. The smile got the message across all too clearly. Inko got tears of joy forming in her eyes while Hisashi gave a warm, proud, fatherly smile. I knew you'd make it. I couldn't be prouder of you kids, Hisashi said, his feelings clear. Ink's reaction, however, was more visibly emotional. My babies made it into UA, Inko shouted as she grabbed Izuku and Asia into a hug before letting the waterworks run, sending out sprays of tears from her eyes. Mom, you're gonna flood the apartment at this rate, Izuku tried and failed to calm down his mother. Please, mother, there's no need to cry, Asia said. I'm sorry, I know. But I'm so proud of you both, Inko said. Izuku and Asia gave in and returned the hug as Hisashi joined in. Mom, Dad, thanks for all your support, Izuku said. Yes, we love you and we always will, Asia said. And we'll always be here to support you and love you as well, Hisashi said. Yes, and nothing will ever change that, Inko managed to say between her sniffles. Chacha's quirk, Were-Rabbit, is based on the Sulong transformation, though there are major differences such as not needing the full moon, and the fact that it's not as lethally life-draining. Also, here's the top 10 list of the exam scores. 1. Izukumidoriya villain points, 33, rescue points, 60. 2. Katsuki Bakugou villain points, 77, rescue points, 0. 3. Danny Fenton villain points, 42, rescue points, 34. 4. Ijiro Kirishima villain points, 39, rescue points, 35. 5. Asia Argento villain points, 30, rescue points, 42. 6. Chacha Akaninjin villain points, 46, rescue points, 20. 7. Itsuka Kendo villain points, 25, rescue points, 40. 8. Tenya Ida villain points, 52, rescue points, 9. 9. Tetsu villain points, 49, rescue points, 10. 10. Ochako Uraraka villain points, 28, rescue points, 30. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 4. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author Pleiades 1754 on fanfiction.net. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.